Oh yeah, this was a good week. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's time for the weekly Mod Collection Demo Shop update. We'll start things off with a really crazy one. So they call this one Cola Burst. And I've got to say, I'm digging the vibes of this one. So you don't have any toggle switch selector. You only have half the controls you normally do. You've got a trapeze-style tailpiece with a regular Nashville-style bridge. But then we just have a singular slanted single coil. Now, we actually have seen this design a long time ago, but it's been a while. But the pairing of this with this particular finish is great. It's just a really dark maroonish red color, and it appears to be metallic in nature, so this is going to have that whole color shift effect, which you can kind of see in this photo, but you can also tell where they filled in the existing holes. So this was not a blank body that they got to use for whatever they want, and if you have those filled in areas showing, it's likely you'll also have the one right here as well as over on your toggle switch side. You can also tell they might have moved the bridge. And if this guitar is properly intonated, I'm not sure that bridge is in the right location. That doesn't give you a lot of adjustment room for the future. And it looks like the finish work was a little bit sloppy around the neck join. But do keep in mind this was a remade Les Paul Studio. There's no clear photos whether they added binding here or if they just exposed the maple edge, which I would assume they did. But I like the fact that we don't have binding on our fretboard. It throws back to the original 52 gold tops. The first run of them didn't have the binding. And since we've got some sort of a trapeze tailpiece on here, I'll take that as a tip of the hat to it. But I absolutely adore what they did to the back of this one. It appears they did a black grain fill and then just left it as like a smoky satin finish. It works incredibly well. It kind of reminds me of the Dusk Tiger backs. They had tiger stripes on it. It brought some flame figuring out of the headstock as well. Then to cap it off, they give you a cola bursted Gibson old time logo. And at $2,200, it was pretty tempting. Following that up, we have a 70s Flying V, this time in Spring Green Pearl, offered at a $500 premium. So we've seen a few refinished 70s Flying Vs in the shop, but this is the first time that we've seen it modified with a dog ear P90 pickup, and just that. No neck pickup, but I'm sure the routes are under there if you wanted to modify it. I don't think I've ever seen a dog ear P90 in a Flying V in general, or really any P90. Gibson needs to get on that. But you've got your pearloid pickguard with matching headstock. And judging by these photos, it looks like it was a satin refinish. But if that green wasn't crazy enough for you, check out Action Green SG Special. This one's just a little bit goofy. It's a really out there in your face green screen color, and then you've got the blue. So you've got the two chroma keying colors, so you can choose. Do you want to mess with the color of the pickguard? Or do you want to mess with the design of the guitar? But the face of the headstock had a very similar theme with a blue Gibson logo and truss rod cover. And you know what? I think this is the first time I've liked the black tuner tips. And was a full gloss refinish, being offered at $2,100. That one might be worth it, depending on who you are. But now check out our next one. The Les Paul Senior is officially canon and in Gibson language. We've documented the Senior. It was a Music Zoo exclusive. You can check out this review and demo if you need to learn more. And we also documented a pure white Les Paul custom that was very similar to this one. So as part of these Senior vibes here, we have a full-bodied Les Paul, but we've got the custom treatments like the multiply binding on the front and a candy apple red finish. And my preferred style of control layout, very similar to a Jared James Nichols. But his usually has the diagonal layout, whereas this is the straight up and down Les Paul Jr. style. But it's a single dog ear P90. You don't see that too often on a custom. But our headstock has a nice tinted lacquer to it. We've got the historic style truss rod cover. So that means this probably isn't just the base model Les Paul Custom, which costs like $5,000-ish depending on what finish you're getting, because we also have the 57 reissue style tuners. And down here it says the body material is only mahogany. But to be fair, they don't say if the top is made of anything else either. But if it is a true 57 reissue, that means it will have the hog top. And the other thing that caught my attention is look at the weight, only 8.5 pounds. That's pretty good if it's solid body. But then when I flipped it over to the back, I was like, what is going on with that neck? Looks like a golden camo-like finish. It's got kind of a strange serial number too. But it doesn't look like they're going for a stinger, it's just the entire back of the neck. Really gave me fall vibes, and they also did that finish on the sides. So you got the whole back of the neck and the sides in this camo-y finish, but yet the top and back are candy apple. But to follow that up, we've got Dark Cask Burst. This is one of those SG Moderns, which I honestly feel it's really badly in need of a redesign with their colors. We've had the same colors for about 4 years now. I would like to see something like a Tobacco Burst in production, but it looks like they changed out our bridge pickup probably for Dirty Fingers. And they tinted the lacquer for the headstock just to make it look a little interesting. And oh, nice, I didn't even notice that. We have some sort of a off reddish orange stinger design going on here. Extended slightly too. It encases a little bit of the edges. And if you're wondering why this Modern has mini Grover tuners on it, I believe they swapped it out to stop the neck diving issues. Kind of a shame that the SG Modern no longer has locking tuners, but I understand why they made the change. Here was another out there one, Berry Blast Sparkle. I feel like we've seen this on something else before too. It's not exactly the same as the Les Paul Special I had reviewed and demoed, but I think it would have a similar color shift effect to it. That's kind of what they're showing you right here. I like the fact that you can still see the wood grain underneath this finish too, and it's got a lot. But our headstock is pure metallic blue, and the back of the headstock does have a slight burst, but not the neck, but yes, the body. Wouldn't surprise me if the same guy that bought the SG bought this one. But then a standard 50s happened in Fire Dragon Burst. Really cool name, and the finish does look nice, but it's not the craziest thing we've ever seen. Really reminds me of a slightly darker version of the Tri-Burst color, a limited edition Guitar Center color for the 60s standard. This one doesn't quite have as much border to it, and the red bled into it, but if this is what Tri-Burst looked on all of them, I think they would sell more. But colors are personal preference. Unfortunately, there's no crazy dragons on the truss rod cover or at the back of the headstock. And they just left the entire back plain. Then lastly, a boring SG standard. It's just black. No, you gotta look closer than that. It's called Pine Sparkola. Well, from this photo, it just looks black. But if you look at the headstock, you start to get the pine vibes. Got a nice greenish, almost dark yellow over your logos. And then you look at this photo and you go, okay, so there is a sparkle within that finish. So there might be like a green tinge to this in person, but it's just extremely dark. You can see a little bit of that sparkle right here in the reflection. So this is one that I just don't think the photos did it justice. But you guys will be happy to know I did make a purchase this week. I wasn't discouraged from 3 weeks ago, but I got the same "your order is under review" message. Uh-oh, here we go again. But thankfully, about 4 hours later, I got the "thanks for your order" message. And then 24 hours after that, my order's on the way, so we will get to document a Gibson Mod Collection guitar next week. Can you accurately guess which one caught my attention? But now moving over to the demo shop side of things, Reverb is currently having a 15% off sale on many different items. So, I mean, if you're in the market for something, you might check it out. And the Gibson demo shop is participating in it. So you got a lot of price drops on like regular Les Paul standards if you're in the market for that. There's some SG Moderns as well as the original collection ones. Look like I got a couple of 335s. I wouldn't necessarily say any of these are screaming deals, but there were a few of them that I think you should know about. If you're in the market for a Carina Flying V, I really doubt you would find a better price than that. That's nearly $4,000 off retail. That's gotta be close to like dealer cost at this point. Sure, it's not the prettiest one that we've ever seen. It's got some bird's eye in it. You either like that or you don't, but it doesn't seem to be like in terrible condition outside a little bit of lacquer sink here. A Custom Shop 67 Flying V for $3,800. Pretty good deal if you're in the market for one of those, especially in the cool sparkling burgundy finish. I don't think you would lose on that one if you bought it and had to sell it in a couple of years. This was a particularly attractive one. It was just listed for this week's offerings. Already got the 15% off, and it's a 60s 355 reissue in what they called Brunswick Hawaiian Blue. So unfortunately, it's like that SG. The photos don't do it justice. From far away, it just looks black, but when you get on it, you can tell, okay, there's a little bit of sparkles. Same thing on the back. If you know you're looking for it, you can see the sparkles, or if you adjust the contrast like this, yeah, now it's blue. But our headstock's plain. And then finally, this photo shows you what it is. Gibson just needs to use this as their leading shot, and I bet it would have sold already. But then we get a nice close-up right here. It's a beautiful galactic blue sparkle. I feel this is worth every penny. I'm tempted to buy it myself. I just don't really have the need to review another 355 at this time. We've done enough signature models. I was surprised this Lefty Jr. was still sitting around for $1,000. And then $1,700 on one of the 70s Flying Vs. Not too shabby. And as far as notable items, I thought the 60 standard was kind of interesting. So it's iced tea burst, but that center looks a little bit greener than they normally do. Here's an example of a normal one versus this one. You see the slight green tinge to it that I'm seeing now? I think it's just because the border was sprayed a bit too light over there. It could just be the way that the top reflects the light. And the last deal, another one I'm really tempted by, 61 SG Standard reissue Cary Green. I remember talking about this one a month ago. I don't know how it's lasted. Custom color, looking great. I guess if you like green colors, it's slightly blue at the same time too. Custom Shop SGs don't get a lot of love on the used market. Oh, okay, maybe now I understand why it's sat around a bit longer. yeah, I'm sure it's just in the finish, but it looks kind of bad. And that will make it a bit harder to sell on the used market. But hey, if you're a player, that is a good deal for a custom shop SG. Now we'll head on over to the UK side of things. It seems the UK demo shop is starting to advertise now because Reverb made a post on their Instagram page about them this week. So naturally, that means they dropped a whole bunch of interesting stuff in the shop. There was a pretty cool 57 Les Paul Jr. double cut, but this one was definitely some sort of a display model. It's got a lot of nicks and dings, it's been gigged out on stage a little bit, so artists must have been enjoying this one. Then I was pretty shocked to see one of these 60th anniversary 57 reissues. I have not documented one of these on the show, but if I remember correctly, there was like 4 different finishes this year, and they only made 60 of each reissue. And some of the hues are actually pretty cool on these, all variations of a gold Les Paul. But they all have this doofy looking truss rod cover that only a collector could love. And then this was pretty cool, Les Paul Access in a gunmetal gray finish. So it's a Les Paul standard, which is cool, but I love the metallic nature of that finish. You can really see it on the Apex head carve. It super accentuates it. But then you get to this photo, ooh. So unfortunately, this line right here is gonna happen on most Access standards and customs eventually because that's just how nitro lacquer is. It sinks into the joint lines. Now since this one is a little bit crooked, it makes me think there might have been some light trauma here, but this does not happen all the time. However, you also have to remember this is a metallic finish, so you've got 2 whammies going against it. Nitro and metallic checks, it's what it does. But if you can live with all that, it was for sale at $4,000. Then the European demo shop, I think they've been busy working out the UK listings, but they did have one stellar guitar that sold quick. SG Custom, P90 pickups. They called it Heather Poly, which I normally associate with a pinkish hue. So I was thinking, isn't that more shoreline gold? But then I think what happened here is it started Heather Poly, but then they sprayed this yellow lacquer over top of it. So that aged it into this slightly rose goldish color. It looks fantastic. I just love the black plastics matched with the ebony fretboard. Everything else is that golden hue. It's just such a beautiful SG. There was an old run of lamp black customs like these. They're pretty cool too, for their prototypical look. I think this one looks even better. If only it had a staple pickup in the neck. However, I'm not even sure if a staple pickup would fit in an SG. Pretty deep if you go for true vintage. But they also had a Jerry Cantrell Fire Devil songwriter guitar. One of the BB King Lucille Legacy models. It's only about $500 off, but remember, that includes value-added tax and everything, so technically a savings in their market. There was also one of the signature Camo models. You don't see those every day. And lastly, one of the Epiphone USA guitars, this time a Texan, and I think that's the first time I've actually looked at one of these. Unfortunately, it still looks like an import guitar. I think it just depends on the era that you grew up with. All right, Troglodytes, that ends this week's recap. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.